Outdoor adventures can offer incredible thrills, but sometimes they end in tragedy. In this video, we'll share 5 more of the worst deaths in the history of outdoor adventures. Real stories of people who set out for excitement, but faced the ultimate danger. It was May 1996, in the pristine wilderness of Shenandoah National Park, Virginia. Julie Williams, 24, and Laura Lolly Winans, 26, embarked on what should have been a rejuvenating backpacking trip. The couple, both experienced outdoor enthusiasts with a deep love for nature, set out on Sunday, May 19th, with Julie's golden retriever. This wasn't just any trip, it was a celebration. Julie had just secured a new job in Burlington, Vermont. Originally from Minnesota, Julie had been living in Richmond, Vermont, one town over from Jericho. Lolly, a Michigan native, had previously studied in Vermont before transferring to Unity College in Maine. Friends remembered Lolly for her free spirit and genuine love of outdoor adventures. The couple met through an organization called Woods Woman, a Minnesota nonprofit that organized outdoor adventures for women. Their romantic relationship blossomed from their shared passion for wilderness exploration. Together, they formed a deep connection through their love of the outdoors. Their hiking route began on the White Oak Canyon Trail. During their journey, they hitched a ride with a park ranger to avoid rain and renew camping permits. They continued to Hawksbill Peak, the highest summit in Shenandoah, before eventually making camp near a stream off the Bridle Trail, about a quarter-mile from Skyline Drive and close to the Appalachian Trail. Their car remained parked at Skyland Lodge. May 24th was the last day Julie and Lolly were seen alive. A week later, on May 31st, Julie's father reported them missing when they failed to return as scheduled. Search efforts began immediately. First, authorities located their car, then found Julie's dog wandering alone in the park. On June 1st, searchers made a horrific discovery at the women's campsite. Lolly's body was found inside their tent, while Julie was discovered 30 feet down an embankment. Despite the site being close to both Skyland Lodge and the heavily trafficked Appalachian Trail, the bodies weren't discovered until the search began. The FBI, National Park Service, and Virginia State Police led the investigation, combing through evidence and interviewing potential witnesses. The brutal murders sent shockwaves through the hiking community. Shenandoah National Park, once considered a safe haven, suddenly felt dangerous. A breakthrough seemed to come on July 9, 1997, when Daryl David Rice was arrested for attempting to abduct a Canadian cyclist inside the park. He had driven at her in his truck, yelled profanities, and tried to force her into his vehicle. She managed to escape, and Rice was arrested at Swift Run Gap. Rice, who lived in Columbia, Maryland, had no prior criminal record, but had recently been fired for being extremely hostile at work. He became a suspect in Julie and Lolly's murders due to his aggressive behavior, focus on female victims, and presence in the park during the time of the murders. Surveillance showed Rice entering the park between May 25th and 26th, 1996, the estimated time of the murders. He denied this but admitted being in the park on June 1st, the day the bodies were found. In April 2001, Rice was indicted. Prosecutors claimed he had killed the women because of their sexual orientation. However, in 2003, DNA testing on a hair found at the scene excluded Rice. Charges were dropped without prejudice. Rice served time for the attempted abduction and was released in 2011. For the families of Julie and Lolly, the absence of justice only compounds their grief. The case remains officially unsolved, a chilling reminder that even in places of natural beauty, darkness can intrude. 2 women, deeply connected through their love of the outdoors, had their lives cut short in a place they cherished, and decades later, we still don't know who was responsible. It was June 14, 2016, at Disney's Grand Floridian Resort in Orlando, Florida. The Graves family from Nebraska was enjoying a carefree vacation at the happiest place on earth. Matt and Melissa Graves, along with their 2-year-old son Lane Thomas and his older sister, had spent the day at the Magic Kingdom, creating memories they would cherish forever. As evening approached, the family decided to relax on the shores of the Seven Seas Lagoon, a man-made body of water adjacent to the resort. Children played in the sand, while parents watched nearby. No swimming signs were posted, but wading in the shallow water wasn't explicitly prohibited. Lane, a curious and energetic toddler with bright blue eyes and a contagious smile, played near the water's edge. His father stood just a few feet away. The sandy beach sloped gently into the lagoon, appearing safe and inviting in the fading daylight. In an instant, the peaceful scene shattered. An alligator, later estimated to be between 4 and 7 feet long, lunged from the water and seized Lane. Matt immediately sprang into action, diving in and desperately fighting to free his son from the predator's jaws. Despite his valiant efforts, the alligator retreated into deeper water with the child. Chaos erupted as resort staff and emergency responders rushed to the scene. A frantic search began, with boats, helicopters, and divers scouring the 172-acre lagoon. The search continued through the night, but hope dimmed with each passing hour. The following afternoon, divers recovered Lane's body just 10 to 15 yards from where he had been taken. Medical examiners determined he had died from drowning and traumatic injuries. In the aftermath, Disney closed all beaches at their resort properties and installed fencing along the water's edge. The Graves family faced unimaginable grief. In a statement, they expressed that words cannot describe the shock and grief our family is experiencing. Rather than pursue legal action against Disney, they established the Lane Thomas Foundation to support families of children needing organ transplants, ensuring their son's memory would live on through helping others. The tragedy highlighted the hidden dangers that can exist even in seemingly safe environments. Despite being on the grounds of one of the world's most renowned resorts, nature's wild elements had intruded with devastating consequences. Lane's death led to immediate changes in how Disney managed their waterfront areas, potentially preventing similar incidents in the future. Yet for the Graves family, no safety measure could bring back their beloved son. Their vacation had transformed from joyful memory-making to a parent's worst nightmare in mere seconds. Lane Thomas Graves, a child full of promise and joy, became a somber reminder of nature's unpredictability and the fragility of life. Spring was in full bloom when Harry Partington, a 22-year-old British tourist with a passion for adventure, set out on what should have been a routine hike on Yosemite's 4-mile trail on April 18, 2018. The weather was perfect, clear skies and mild temperatures ideal for exploring the park's legendary beauty. Harry had always been drawn to natural wonders. Friends described him as confident and enthusiastic, with an infectious smile that could light up a room. A recent university graduate, he had saved for months to fund his dream trip across America. With Yosemite being a highlight, he particularly looked forward to experiencing. The 4-mile trail, despite its name, stretches nearly 5 miles from the valley floor to Glacier Point, offering breathtaking views of Yosemite Valley, Half Dome, and Yosemite Falls. For experienced hikers like Harry, it was challenging but manageable. He had studied the trail maps carefully and packed appropriate gear for a day hike. Around mid-afternoon, as Harry ascended a steep section of the trail, weather conditions began to change. What started as a gentle breeze intensified into strong wind gusts that whipped through the valley. The sudden shift caught many hikers off guard, including Harry. Just before 2 p.m., other hikers reported hearing a loud crack, the unmistakable sound of wood splitting against itself. A massive ponderosa pine, weakened by previous storms and disease, gave way under the force of the wind. The 100-foot giant came crashing down directly onto the trail where Harry was hiking. Nearby hikers rushed to help, but it was immediately clear that the situation was dire. The massive trunk had struck Harry with devastating force. Those first on the scene attempted CPR, while others raced to areas with cell reception to call for emergency services. Park rangers and medical personnel arrived within 20 minutes, but despite their rapid response and desperate efforts to save him, Harry was pronounced dead at the scene. The medical examiner later confirmed that he had died instantly from catastrophic injuries caused by the impact. News of the tragedy spread quickly through the park and made international headlines. Visitors and staff alike were stunned by the freak accident. Park officials noted that while they regularly assess and remove hazardous trees near facilities and popular trails, it's impossible to eliminate all risk in a wilderness environment with millions of trees. Harry's family was devastated. In a statement, they described him as a bright light extinguished far too soon, and expressed gratitude for the outpouring of support from both strangers and friends. They established a memorial fund in his name to help underprivileged youth experience the natural wonders he had loved so dearly. The randomness of the tragedy haunted everyone involved. Harry had done everything right. He was on a maintained trail, had proper equipment, and was hiking in what had started as favorable conditions. Yet in a split second, an unpredictable natural event ended a promising young life, demonstrating how quickly fate can turn, even in places of magnificent beauty. The summer heat hung heavy over Center Hill Lake in Tennessee on July 25, 2015. Lauren Agee, a vibrant 21-year-old nursing student from Hendersonville, was attending WakeFest, a popular wakeboarding tournament with friends. Known for her infectious laugh and adventurous spirit, Lauren was excited for a weekend of fun on the water. The group decided to camp at a cliffside site only accessible by boat, a spot locals called Serenity Cove. The location was stunning but treacherous, requiring campers to navigate a steep, narrow path up a cliff face to reach the camping area overlooking the lake. Despite the challenging terrain, Lauren and her friends made it to the site and set up camp. That night, they attended a party on a houseboat before returning to their cliffside campsite. According to friends, Lauren went to sleep in a hammock secured between two trees near the cliff edge. The next morning, her friends awoke to find the hammock empty. Lauren was nowhere to be found. Later that day, fishermen made a grim discovery. Lauren's body was floating in the water below the cliff, in an area separated from the campsite by dense brush and rocky terrain. Authorities initially ruled her death an accident, suggesting she had fallen from the cliff during the night. The medical examiner noted she had suffered neck injuries, broken bones, and bruising consistent with a fall. But Sherry Smith, Lauren's mother, had questions from the beginning. The official explanation didn't align with the evidence she saw. Lauren's belongings, including her shoes and phone, were neatly arranged at the campsite, unlike what would be expected if she had stumbled in the dark. The path authorities suggested she had taken to the cliff edge was overgrown and difficult to traverse, especially at night. More troubling were the autopsy findings. Despite falling into water, Lauren's lungs showed no signs of drowning. Blood had pooled in ways inconsistent with the position she was found in. And most disturbing, her body showed bruising and injuries that some experts later suggested occurred before death, not from a fall. Friends' accounts of that night revealed inconsistencies when questioned. Some changed their stories multiple times, and their behavior after Lauren's disappearance struck many as unusual. Rather than frantically searching for their missing friend, they continued with the wakeboarding tournament. With mounting questions and little action from authorities, Sherry hired private investigators and fought to have the case re-examined. A forensic pathologist who reviewed the evidence believed Lauren's death was not accidental, but likely the result of homicide. Despite these findings, no criminal charges were ever filed. 5 years after Lauren's death, her mother filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the friends who were with her that night. The case eventually settled out of court, leaving many questions unanswered. To this day, the full truth of what happened on that cliff remains elusive. Was Lauren the victim of a tragic accident, as officially ruled? Or did something more sinister occur that night above Center Hill Lake? Her mother continues to seek justice, keeping Lauren's memory alive while pursuing the truth about her final hours. Waves crashed against the Tasmanian shore as Andrew Macaulay pushed his customized kayak into the waters on January 11, 2007. His goal: to become the first person to paddle solo across the Tasman Sea to New Zealand, a treacherous 1,600-kilometer journey through one of the world's most unpredictable stretches of ocean. At 39, Andrew was already a legendary figure in adventure circles. A celebrated mountaineer and kayaker, he had conquered some of the world's most challenging environments, from the frozen reaches of Antarctica to the tempestuous waters of the Southern Ocean. Friends described him as meticulous and safety-conscious, yet drawn irresistibly to the extreme edges of human capability. The Tasman crossing represented Andrew's ultimate challenge. He had spent months modifying his kayak, adding a partial cockpit cover he called Casper to protect against waves and provide shelter. He carried satellite communications, navigation equipment, and emergency beacons. Nothing had been left to chance. His wife, Vicky, and 3-year-old son, Finley, saw him off from shore. Though concerned, Vicky understood Andrew's need to test his limits. Before departing, he assured her, "If I get myself into trouble, I'll get myself out of it." For 30 days, Andrew battled mountainous swells, ferocious storms, and near capsizes. He paddled up to 16 hours daily, sleeping in his cramped cockpit. Through satellite phone, he described the journey as the most emotionally and physically demanding thing I have ever done. His body was covered in salt sores. His muscles ached from constant exertion. By February 9th, Andrew had conquered the worst of the Tasman. New Zealand was visible on the horizon, just 80 kilometers away. In his final satellite call to Vicky, he described the tantalizing sight of land and his anticipation of completing the journey the following day. "I can't wait to see you," were his last recorded words to his family. At 7:15 p.m. on February 9th, New Zealand's Maritime Rescue Coordination Center received a distress call. The garbled transmission contained Andrew's voice, "My kayak's sinking. This is a mayday, preparing to abandon ship." The signal included his position, approximately 30 miles from shore. A massive search operation launched immediately. The following day, searchers found Andrew's kayak, but he was not in it. His life vest, satellite phone, and emergency beacon were still attached. The cockpit cover had been damaged, possibly by a wave or during an attempted re-entry after capsizing. Despite an extensive search covering thousands of square kilometers, Andrew's body was never found. His final moments remain a mystery. Had a rogue wave capsized him? Had exhaustion prevented him from executing the re-entry maneuvers he had practiced countless times? Or had the proximity to land caused a fatal moment of relaxation? The documentary footage Andrew had recorded throughout his journey was recovered from the kayak. It revealed a man pushing the absolute limits of human endurance, at times terrified yet resolved to continue. In one chilling segment, filmed during a fierce storm, he confessed to the camera, "I didn't think I was going to make it through the night." Andrew McCauley came heartbreakingly close to achieving his goal. Instead, he joined the ranks of explorers who perished pursuing the impossible. His wife later reflected, "He died doing what he loved, but it wasn't worth it." The recovered footage became a documentary titled Solo, preserving Andrew's extraordinary journey and serving as a testament to both human capability and its limits. The wilderness draws us with its beauty and challenge, but as these stories remind us, nature remains indifferent to our desires and dreams. From the mysterious deaths in Shenandoah to a toddler's tragic encounter with a predator, from a split-second accident in Yosemite to unanswered questions at Center Hill Lake, and finally to the vast emptiness of the Tasman Sea, these tales remind us of our vulnerability. These 5 stories span different environments and circumstances, yet each reveals the thin line between adventure and tragedy. They remind us to approach the outdoors with respect, preparation, and humility. For in the wild places of our world, wonder and danger often walk hand in hand. As you venture into nature's embrace, remember those who went before, those whose stories ended too soon, but whose spirits continue to remind us of both the magnificence and peril that await beyond the boundaries of civilization.